Welcome everybody, and I hope you like our new design. We're revamping things. It will take time, but we are going to be incorporating the magical web of dreaming and weaving that connects in with my book, Dakini Weaving, as part of our new image, and it feels really good. So, welcome to this transmission for June 2024. And it's an interesting month. I'm going to get going. I do want to give gratitude to the day keepers of the Mayan lands, to Mark Elmy, my teacher from that system, to Jose Arguelles and those who brought through the Dreamspell Calendar, to the Rishis, the celestial bodies, and to Ganesha, the patron deity of Jyotish, the science of light. So I don't overly explain what is non-dual astrology because you can find this in a deeper way, and you can even request longer um, lectures on this, presentations on this, if you're interested in this. I feel it's a really important way of looking at the celestial bodies. We find lots of things that we wouldn't see if we only look from a subjective, limited vantage point. So this is very much what our little organization is about. It's about this concept of weaving, working with kind of Dakini magic, and in a way bringing a synthesis of what we might call female intuitive wisdom into a dance, a tantric dance with the more vertically oriented masculine energies, which runs through us all. Okay, so there's a tantra at play even with what we offer here. Okay. And just a quick update. My book, Dakini Weaving, Keys to the Golden Age, is now out on Amazon. It's going to be released into bookshops in October. But yeah, if you would like to find out more, we've got a little animation. We're very limited because we're very busy. But yeah, so we're not very slick. Okay, that's because we're very busy doing a lot of stuff on the ground and we do a lot of volunteer work. But you will find a little video telling more about this book, this weaving of the worlds that hopefully will help you to prepare for what we might call the golden age, the Aquarian age, or the new earth. Okay, so that's out. I really encourage you to check it out. I will have an interview with Sasha Stone going live this month, which we dance quite a lot around the topics in the book. And we also have the first section of the book is made into actual audio and visual transmissions for those who prefer to receive a deep, deep, deep transmission from the weaving of many teachings from many, many years of traveling and working with tribes, wisdom keepers, Dharma practitioners, and many more. So, yeah, also, we're going to be somewhat on sabbatical because we're having our yearly mystery school retreat in the Highlands of Scotland. And we're kind of full now, but I'm saying this because maybe some of you would like to come and do some very deep work with us next year. And we're actually starting to look at offering many different little packages that are very one-to-one on people's Dharma pathways, and also some teachings and also some proper group retreat work. Okay, so let's get started properly. I'm talking here about Vedic sidereal dates. So sometimes I include Western tropical astrology, but today I'm just aligning it up with Vedic astrology. And I'm also going to talk in this section about something I think that everybody needs to hear about. And I have got longer transmissions in our Venus Saturn codes teaching that we did, that we is part of a series of teachings that will be coming through the book and through other workshops over the next year or so. So at the bottom of this slide, you'll see that I'm going to talk about Saturn in Purvabhadrapada. And it's already started, but I just want to make space for that today because I feel that if people know what's going on, they're going to really understand what is at play. So, first things first, we have a lot of energy with Taurus in this month, okay? And it's already begun. We already have Jupiter, Venus, and Sun there. And then Mercury is going to be joining right at the very end of May on the 31st. So there's big Taurean energy. And this is also, in many ways, coming under the wing of Jupiter having moved into Taurus not that long ago. And this, so some would say that Taurus is great for wealth creation. Taurus is really into that which sustains us in the material plane. And therefore, we're going to see possibly a year of expansion for many people. But of course, it depends where Taurus is in your chart, what house that is. But we certainly have, and we may be prone to thinking about creature comforts or thinking about that which sustains us in life. And I think that as we progress through this transmission, we'll see this energy of trading of ideas, of communicating, of finding viable partners, finding people who we want to weave with. And that feels like a very proactive energy. And what's going on is that we've also had Rahu and Mars in a bit of a ghastly conjunction this month in May while I'm making this. And there's been a lot of conflict in the air, which I raised in the last transmission. And some of it's really delusional, people busting for fisticuffs, because that's the Rahu playing out. And the amount of people that have spoken to me about really outmoded patriarchal construct energy coming at them in very bizarre and absurd ways. I would be rich if I had, a pound for every one of those. And I see when we look at the way the astrological bodies are working, the evolution of that, the purpose that that's serving. And I'm going to be relating that to Saturn in Purvabhadrapada as well in a little minute. So I just really want to tell you that that energy is finishing right at the beginning of June. So there's a sigh of relief as maybe there are not these strange haters or people coming through with very samsaric, I would say, samsaric attacks. And that's Rahu busting for a fight because it's sitting with Mars. It's just really angsty energy. But Mars will prevail. Mars is now moving in June into Aries, where it's really at home, where it's really happy to do its thing. In a way, some of us have been constrained by it presents as madness, okay? But it's always got a teaching. And I know many people have said, okay, I've looked at what I need to do about this. And for some people, it is move to a different pasture, move away from this. And in Western astrology, there's a lot of movement of Sedna at the moment. So there's something about just go to a different realm. This is a lot what Dakini weaving, the book, is about. Go to a different realm. You don't need to be here with this absurd projection of what is actually failing and doesn't work anymore into your field. But how you deal with that and dance with that impeccably, hopefully, and in the unique way that you need to, is something that you need to all explore. But it can bring growth and gain if you don't get too absorbed in it, okay? And it's kind of good because with the Jupiter energy and all of this energy in Taurus, there is quite a lot of work ethic in the field. And when Mars moves into Aries, it's going to bring determination and work. We'll be looking at that later when we go more deeply into the Vedic astrology. In the global north, we have the solstice on the 20th of June. So there's this feeling of solar refreshment after the long winter, but of course it's then leading back into the winter. And there is a sense of renewal, activation. I know that in the global north, especially in North Europe, North and Western Europe, I would say, we find that the days are so long, people get a lot done. It feels like there's a lot of time that you can fit into a day. So it feels very productive in the global north right now. And also, just even on a visual level, we're going to have orbits of Jupiter, Mercury, Uranus, Mars, Neptune, and Saturn, all bringing an alignment of those planets to the same side of the sun, and you're going to see them line up. So, how I would like to suggest this may flow is indeed that where we've had the kind of angsty fisticuffs, we've been in the eclipse shadow, there's a sense of renewal, of flow, of activation this month that's really helpful. And it will hit different people different ways depending on where your Mars is placed, because Saturn is still aspecting on Mars. So there's still Saturn trying to help us to err on the side of caution with Mars. And I'm going to explain and break that down now when I come into Saturn in Purvabhadrapada. So Saturn is in Purvabhadrapada. Purvabhadrapada is a constellation. It's the higher celestial bodies. And Saturn, Lord of karma, Lord of time, Lord of obstacles and delays, sacrifice, all of these things, is bringing a collective karma around what Purvabhadrapada is about. And I'm only going to speak about some of Purvabhadrapada today, but as you can see, there's a picture here with two masks. One is smiling, one is not smiling. And one of the symbols of Purvabhadrapada, which is also known as the burning star, is it's like twins. We see twins a lot in mythology. And it's this concept of good twin, naughty twin. And the function of the burning star is really about how we use our spiritual fire wisely. And the angsty fisticuffs has been coming in Pisces, which is people are calling people out in different spiritual traditions. And yes, there is a lot that needs to be questioned. And a lot of people are flexing also at the wrong people, but that's a really good way of working beyond duality and also working beyond your own victim perpetrator programming and just learning to practice nonviolence with this stuff. This energy is going to continue culling where necessary situations where spiritual fire is not being used appropriately. And on the lower right side, we would call this maybe the lower serpent codes, this manipulative, sexualized spirituality that we may see in many, many forms, such as Tantra or Neo-Tantra anyway, or shamanism or plant medicine work, dodgy shamanism, wonky gurus, all of these things. So there's been a spate of already when this energy just started to activate, a spate of calling out. But there's also people calling out other people who are really working from a path of deep experience. And that is because Rahu is sitting in Pisces, but it's had Mars with it. So there's been people actually being the projector in some ways, propelling their own wounds to try and call out people without having satisfactory reason or information around. And all I really want to say here is that anybody who's on a spiritual path needs to really examine their motives, do their ego work, and really be ready to speak up for themselves, to know that if you are a practitioner, if you are calling yourself spiritual or anything like this, there are many people who want to call this out right now. So if you are happy in your path, that won't bother you because you'll be in non-duality enough that it really doesn't really penetrate. But if you have been putting things out there without appropriate training or having not really done a lot of inner work and you're putting yourself out as something, then be careful because the burning energy of this could create a lot of fallout. And that's why I feel like Saturn is holding Mars back a little bit in the aspecting of Mars moving into its home, there to get to work. Okay, I've not got the haters, I've not got all this crazy angsty samsara stuff. But then Saturn said, yeah, but hold on, don't just think that everything you do does not have some Maya or Maras. So these things being like illusion. And be very careful, okay? And just see, do you really want to proclaim this? Do you really want to do that? Are you ready for this? So there's a beautiful cosmic mechanism of the Purvabhadrapada just saying, yeah, too much fire burns, okay? And just to tell you where this is going to, we've got the good twin and the naughty twin. So the naughty twin being the kind of sexy yogi who's using their CDs to attract sex and stuff like this. And any of this kind of manipulative sexuality that plays out through certain circles. And then the cultivation of the inner fire, the spiritual fire better, is going to give rise to the more altruistic new earth pioneer, the Shambhala warriors, the Dakini weavers, the altruistic yogis, who realize that it's not about personal gain. It's actually about being one with all and doing everything in a bodhisattva level, that everything is for the collective. Okay. So this is really, this Rahu Mars conjunction is really busted to make this friction. And as I say, some of that is actually other people projecting their Rahu into the field. And the true Mars energy is starting to rise. Mars is actually, it's celibate, it's diligent, it will choose its battles wisely. Okay. So now Mars is just like, okay, like, look, about this fisticuff stuff, I really don't have time for it. And people who already were wise to that it didn't bother them. It didn't waste time to deal with the angsty fisticuffs energy. Okay. Because they are so busy on their Dharma path and they so know their place that it didn't matter. So it's going to be an interesting time. And this is not the only moment of this, because as I say, this influence is around for numerous months. So just be aware of that, because you'll probably see, wow, there's been a lot of like calling out and conflict. I was speaking to some colleagues yesterday who said, wow, people are so hot-headed everywhere. And thankfully that's going to calm down a little bit and to give rise to flow. But yeah, it's it's interesting, and I think it serves a wonderful purpose, because next year we're going to have Saturn going into Uttarabhadrapada, and there is a really amazing collective possibility for us all to go into a more selfless, true spiritual humanitarian way of being. Okay, but right now it's like an initiation. So today I'm going to do the sacred calendar first because it felt like that made sense with the rest of the transmission. And here in the bottom right, we have Tsi energy, and Tsi is the dog. And so this energy is coming until we get into early June. And actually it's Tsi energy right now when I'm making this. And when it takes us right to the end of that Mars Rahu Angsty conjunction. So behind the scenes, in many ways, the Rahu Mars conjunction can be helping us to realize, look, I don't want to put myself out as this, or I don't need to deal with people like this. I know who my soul tribe are. I know what the laws are, the cosmic principles, the Dharma. I know how that works and what I want to bring to that. Okay. So it's really for those who are able to be in a non-dual dance with this, it's a great time for people identifying, like, yeah, okay, these are the people I want to weave with. And I feel that this is in the shadow of the eclipse, because we've had a lot of Kritika energy with where most of the planetary activity has been. Kritika has been cutting. So the Rahu Mars has also been showing us, okay, so how much do I really need to deal with these outmoded structures? And please understand, when I say patriarchal, I don't mean men, okay? I mean decaying institutions. And all around the world right now, we have government shifts. So many people are telling me things that are happening in their government right now. And total dismay. We also have a lot of people starting to realize that the events from 2019, there was maybe some precarious activity going on, and a lot of people who maybe advocated certain things are starting to change their mind. And I'm talking to many people who are saying, yeah, I had 3 people in the last couple of days saying to me, a lot of people who have maybe advocated or stuck by the mainstream narrative are really suffering right now. They realize just the level of entrenchment of samsaric principles that there are. I'm not going to go into even what is truth. And that's going to be an unfolding, because this is part of the themes of these eclipses, is this dismantling of the old to give rise to our more spiritual self, and re-examining how we work and things like this. So these little fisticuffs that come from outmoded patriarchal vantage points are a great way of us just going, you know what, I'm self-organizing with my team over here. Yeah, you know what, this is a great catalyst. And you know what, I'm going to stick with these values that do come from that old system, because I do feel they work. But you know what, like this other thing, and this kind of aggression and covert narcissism that's playing out, well, that's okay. That's a good teacher too, but I don't really need to get involved with it. Okay. And so I see a lot of people making great headway at this time in terms of new communities, finding fellow weavers. And I really make a call to action to Dakini weavers. And in the coming years, we will be creating a deeper portal for people from different professions and walks of life to be Dakini weavers, to bridge the worlds, to resist definition, to resist projection, and to just dance with this amazing opportunity we have. Okay, and then we go into Akabal. So with this sense of, yeah, this has been great for helping me to cut, my associations with certain things, to move beyond these samsaric notions, we now have Akabal coming in from the 4th to 16th of June. And Akabal is a hybrid energy. And this is it. We are in a hybrid world right now. We are not out of the outmoded patriarchal zone, yet we're not in the new earth either. Okay. And something that's so important is us seeking these liminal states of being that are not just alert problem solving mode. And I talk a lot about this in the book, and explaining how indigenous systems or Dharma principles help us to come into this more receptive way of being that is totally destined as part of our own yin yang balancing. So you may find it's a great time from the 4th to the 16th to receive and channel information, and to also look at your own hybrid nature. I'll give an example. I've got very white skin, very light skin, but I come from a colonized country. Okay. And so I'm hybrid. Okay. And this is seen a lot in my astrology. Okay. I have lots of things that are right on the cusp because I was born at 5 past midnight. Okay. And so there's this concept of new beginnings that's not formed, because it's got to come from the formless realm into the form realm, because that's how natural law works. Okay. So there's a sense of reclamation of being able to understand we have our feet in two worlds and that we can be these active dreamers. And I really encourage you all to spend some time, whilst this will be a month of um, activities and interactions for many of you, also take the time out to be more horizontal, to let it come from the formless realm rather than trying to egoically figure it out. And then we have Achmak energy later on in the month. And Achmak is very deep, forgiving, forgiveness, redemption energy. And it's like wiping the slate clean. So it's a really good time if you've been feeling polarized by haters and and situations, that you actually start to just realize it's just a cosmic mechanism to help you to find your true place, okay, and to give you a fresh start, so you find your higher pastures, okay. And so learn to forgive yourself for getting into any conflicts, forgive those who brought through whatever needed to happen, and just realize that you don't need to take anything personally, just move it on. And if you are needing the and feeling the call to do ancestral work at this time, these dates are really strong for doing ancestral work. And yeah, some of us, we're going to be doing deep ancestral work up in the Highlands of Scotland at that time. And a lot of people are feeling it bubbling to the surface. And this all goes into Toch, which is right at the end of June into early July, which is also about making offerings. This dancing into the right way, the truth, the giving before the taking, the decolonization of just taking ideas, just territorializing, and us starting to become generous of spirit and devotional, and giving things out and doing earth offerings and payments to the earth and things like this, and to help those less fortunate. These are all things that will be very important, okay? These are things that we're going to also lead us into, in the Dreamspell calendar, the new galactic year, which then that begins on the 26th of July. Okay, in the Dreamspell calendar, here we have this kind of like, looks like a tongue. This is the wind wave spell. And this, for me, suggests the freeing up after maybe people felt constrained or victimized or called out. If there's something that you need to set straight, rather than having done it during the conflict time, and in last month's transmission, I really recommended that people just take a step back, okay? Don't go to war if you can help it. If there's something that you need to say regarding injustice or being frank with people, then this is a good time to do it. It's also a great time to work with our sacred ability to decree and to have a higher communion with the divine through speech, through verbal transmission, through prayer. And it's always important to use this wisely, because wind energy can sometimes be too strong for its own good, okay? But you may have found that during the last month of May, that there were ancient karmic wounds on being censored, having your voice repressed. I know so many people in female bodies, and I've definitely had to work through this, female bodies or from indigenous tribes or people who are of color, different levels of marginalization, where people feel that they haven't been able to have their voice. Okay, and if you look, this is dancing at the time of it's C is still in there, but Akabal is also this dreaming liminal hybrid energy is there. So it's a good time to speak from hybridity, and this is Dakini weaving book is about this concept of many of us being hybrids. You know, we maybe don't fully remember our roots because of the legacy of colonization and territorialization and rape and pillaging. But there's something important for us to actually realize is that that doesn't mean we're a bad person, that we have our own gifts to bring as hybrid beings. And this is really the call of Dakini weaving, the call of action, call to action, is remember that this too brings gifts and ways of seeing that are a valid contribution to the timeline shift we can enter. And also this connection to spiritual communication, which is so, so important. And then we have the ego wave spell, and ego is able to see the bigger picture. So if there's anything that's been contracting you into feeling victimized or that something's highly unjust, you will get a vantage point to come into deeper compassion to what that is, which is always helpful because when we're too contracted by something, we're often in a samsaric way of being with it. We're polarized, we're dualistic. So there's a real opportunity for people to come to a higher vantage point. Also, this can activate people's own personal dharma and planetary service because this sign is all about using our elevated status as a vanguard between heaven and earth to seamlessly work, painstakingly work for our communities. So it's not for singular gain. It's this kind of altruistic visioning that we need. So what often happens when we've been contracted by something is we can't see the perfection of it. We remain polarized. And so you may find that later in the month, around solstice time, that suddenly a deeper devotion and a deeper heart-based connection to something rises for you. And you can see why the cosmos has brought that through for you. And then it's very beautiful because we then go into the star wave spell, which is very much about elegant flow. And it's very much the beauty way. And it's quite charismatic energy. So there's a sense of coming to more transcendental awareness that's growing through this month. And if you see, there's like this ability to forgive, this less trauma, karma way of responding that's going to be really helpful for people. So if you've been suffering and feeling very fixated on the minutiae of some karma, and you're looping, you may find that in the second half of the month that things become softer and more manageable. Okay, in Vedic astrology, I mentioned earlier we have this stellium in Taurus, and the main stellium is on the 5th and the 6th of June. So yeah, that's really deep. It's a nice day to focus on, it can be a bit about what are the luxuries in life that I like and I need, but how am I going to work, and how do I work to give myself the lifestyle that I need. And please don't think I'm trying to say that we should all have opulent lifestyles, but what helps me serve my Dharma purpose? What do I need so that I'm not sick, I'm not disheveled, I'm not suffering so much that I can't do my Dharma? Okay. And this can be, you might feel a real activation of this on the 5th and the 6th. Other people may feel very sensual on those days. And as I mentioned earlier, we're moving from that cutting energy. And so we're moving from that cutting energy. And this energy, as it keeps going in Taurus for much of the month, is going from the Kritika energy into Rohini. And in this picture, which you can't see all of, this is like a little car. And Rohini is the first of the nakshatras that really represents movement and trading of ideas, interaction. And this is such a beautiful time for moving forward to what sustains our communities, to how we can, create happiness, to create abundance, to trade with the right people. And so the mechanism of the angsty fisticuffs is that it served for another level of cultivating. Okay, you know what? That's not moving forward for me. That's not what moving forward feels like. That feels like something I don't associate with anymore. So actually, I'm going to go over here. It's actually helped me to identify who I am and what I do at this time. So I think that's lovely. It's going to be quite a productive, interactive month. And of course, mid-month in Vedic astrology, we come into Gemini, lots of talking, lots of interacting, lots of communication, using our intellect wisely. Okay. So it is a really good time for getting movement, getting forward movement. And yeah, and I've talked about Mars at home in Aries, the 2nd to the 12th. So yeah, I think it's not just, oh yeah, that's the second of June to the 12th of July, forgive me. And yeah, so this, as I say, there's still this mechanism of, so don't just think you know everything now. And I say this a lot in my transmissions, but because I can always see that, oh, Saturn's just trying to keep us humble, don't be silly. And so it's very hard with this mass media, social media age that people all think the minute they have a download that they've got to make a whole video about it. And they don't go and ground themselves and going and researching or finding people who correlate and just thinking that they own something and it's theirs and they've got to go viral with it. And I think that a lot of this is why Saturn is sitting the way it is, because we really do need to just do your work, do it steadily, understand that you've got a nice drive to do things, but look at how it's leading you to discuss things, talk things through with others. Don't just use the ego to propel you into something, so that if you get called out, you it's not going to bother you. It's a bit like, think at any given moment, what would I do if I had to represent this in court, or as an academic viva, like, or a tribunal? Would I speak up for this? You have to have full conviction in what you're doing and understand why it is your sacred role to do that. Otherwise, keep working and slow down. Okay. Don't just race ahead, because there are so many avenues still for getting cosmic slaps throughout the year. Okay. Okay, and so the synthesis for overall for this month is, overall it is a period of, oh, it does this every time. I don't know why. It's a period of abundance and good alignment, and is a great time to talk, to vision for new communities, to really start to see who are team players, how do we trade ideas, who am I interacting with on that front. And so this is a great time to boost our confidence and our courage. There is a great kind of courage energy in the field, and hard work will pay off. So many of you, depending on where your Mars is sitting, you may feel a lot of good determination, strong energy. And certainly I'm looking forward to this, because I've been really feeling the solar flares some days. I go to bed and then I realize there's been an X flare, X class flare. I'm like, what's wrong with me? And but that's all great, because there's codes and we're getting all this photonic energy. But you may so you may find that the Mars energy is really helping you to be steady and work with stamina, which I think some of us need right now. That it's great that we have these mechanisms which will stop us from moving ahead too fast. And yeah, overall, it is a great time for seeing people. It's quite sociable, and it's okay to have some fun. Sometimes we really have to be doing our sadhana, all of this. And some of you, if you've got deep sadhana to do, I'm saying keep doing it, depending on, your path. But it's also okay to hang out and have some Venusian times. We've got a lot of energy where in a house that Venus is the Lord, okay? And Venus is about interaction with others, comfort, a bit of luxury. And some of us recently, last weekend, a lot of us just felt, I started to make mistakes in my work because I was just starting to go through the motions, and I'm personally very driven to do my work, but I also rest, I balance it with rest. And I just got to the point where it was just not flowing, and I pushed to try to do it for somebody, and I made a mistake. And so I realized I'm really being asked to slow down. I'm being asked to be more Venusian right now. I'm being asked to see people, and I'm having a lovely time catching up with old colleagues and friends here and there. Nearly every day, there's an interaction that hasn't been had for like a year. So I do encourage you to use this time to, be a little bit more social than usual. And do this to help you find those who are resonant, who are my keepers, and please, what I want to say about keepers is that we have lessons that we all have to learn in life with certain people, some for a long time, some that come around, and some that go away immediately after we've learned our lessons. And so just really see who or what is nourishing you, that you feel a body yes to interacting with, and do spend some time loving people, loving, sharing ideas, hearing how people are, getting those updates is a really nice time for that. And if you've been waiting to, I don't know, go to a spa or do something kind to your body, then you could also take a little bit of time out for that as well. To just, if you needed to get your hair done, get your hair done. But don't just abolish your devotional work, because as you see, we need to keep cultivating the spiritual fire. And that means understanding how we work that sacred energy. And therefore, do keep in devotional energy. And ultimately, some people call this false light. Really examine if you are giving or receiving teachings or sessions from people. Is this person really, are they really doing the work? Do they have lineage? Can they answer my questions? And just make sure you've got your own quality control around what you do, what people do around you, and just know that Rahu's still there pumping out delusion around our spiritual nature, and Saturn's still in Purvabhadrapada. So we've got a lot of karma around delusional spirituality right now. So yeah, just be mindful of that. If you have sadhana that you do, if you can do devotional work, if you can do karma yoga over this next 9 months, make sure you're always doing those things where you can be subordinate to something, because that will help you to know that you're in the right path and really taming the ego. Anyway, we will talk more about that, I'm sure, at another time, probably when we have a lot more Leo energy coming. And yeah, it's an honor to give these transmissions to you. Thank you for listening. And please do like and subscribe to get more offerings like this. Gracias, gracias, gracias.